All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the Behind the Smoke podcast. We are your podcast hosts. I'm Adamo.
Hey, I'm Boris.
And yeah, we're happy to have you guys all chime in and listen to our latest episode. It's a pretty good episode, I think, today. We're going to talk about things that you'd want your family to be aware of after getting hired on the job, right?
Yeah, so you just got the job, you're happy. What's coming next? What are you going to tell your family to watch out for or be prepared for
Yeah.
for the next potentially 30 years of your career?
Yeah. So what's one thing that you told your wife or your family that after you got hired, like how your life was going to maybe change a bit?
Yeah, so my wife has nothing to do with the fire service. She's college educated, white collar job, totally different.
Yeah.
So she actually came up with a great idea for us after a shift, because she couldn't relate to me in any way through her, school or work or anything that she does. So when I get off work, she'd be like, "How's your day from 1 to 10?" And if I say like 8, 9, or 10, she's like, "Okay." She gives me space, doesn't ask questions, potentially cooks and, does stuff for me around the house so I don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
And I decompress a lot better that way.
That's actually really good, man.
Yeah,
That's such a good way of doing that.
yeah. She's a smart cookie.
Yeah. Well, yeah, for sure. She married you. Of course she's smart.
Yeah. Compared to me, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. One person in the relationship needs to be smart.
yeah.
And for me, that's also my wife.
Nice.
Yeah, I think like one of the things for me is after a shift, if it was like a busy night,
Mhm.
like just my wife like knows that I need to come home, have a nap, right? Sometimes she'll like want to do stuff around the house or whatever, but she knows she's like, okay, like he just got off of a night shift. He's going to want to come home, sleep. And then when I wake up, I typically just want to like have a coffee, just hang out for a little bit, right? Like I like to sit there, watch some YouTube videos, whatever.
Yeah.
But
Nice.
like she knows that like that lack of sleep that happens to us through the job, it can be pretty detrimental,
Yeah.
right, to your family life or whatever, right? Like to your days off, right? Because sometimes you get such a busy night and you feel like a zombie the next day,
For
right?
sure.
And you like don't feel like doing anything, right? Or you like don't really feel like talking, or
Yeah.
I know like my mom sometimes she'll call, at like 9 o'clock in the morning and I'm asleep, and
Yeah.
I'll wake up, I'll call her back, and then she wants to talk about a bunch of stuff. I'm like, oh, mom, listen, like I'm so tired today. Like I just need to not talk. I kind of just want to hang out
Yeah.
and just chill out, right?
And you don't mean anything bad by it. You want to talk to your family, you want to spend time with your family, but
Yeah.
in that moment after a shift, it's rarely is it a good time.
Yeah, exactly, right? And you're so tired, and like I said, like you kind of feel like you're a zombie. You almost feel like you're like hungover,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah. And then what about like if you had like a bad call?
Yeah. Actually, the whole numbering system that my wife came up with came from a bad call. It was middle of the night. So, 3, 4 a.m., like right before shift actually even finished, right? So, like right before we got off shift, this girl was coming back from the bar, jaywalking, and got hit by a vehicle, and, a mess on the road,
Yeah.
all kinds of bad things, right? And I got home, 2 hours later, or whatever it was, 3 hours later, and, my wife was talking about something that just seemed so insignificant in that moment. It was important to her,
Yeah.
and any other day it would have been important to me too. But that day, I'm just like, how is this even an issue when, I was just holding a head of somebody who is basically dead, right?
Yeah.
And I was just like, I really do not care about this right now. And it kind of blew up into a big thing when if we had that system in place and I was like, yeah, I'm a 10 out of 10 right now, that conversation never would have happened. And
Yeah.
I would have just, done my thing that day.
That's a really good thing you guys got going on.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to talk to my wife about that and maybe implement that too, because we do go to some calls that can be like tragic and traumatic and stuff, and you need a bit of time, like almost to yourself, to just like process that event, right? Like maybe going to like a family function or something like that on your day after a shift where something like that happened isn't maybe the best idea, right?
Hmm.
Because sometimes you do feel like you're a bit absent minded after an event like that,
For
right?
sure. 100%.
So I think that's something for family members and spouses to be aware of, right? And sometimes you don't want to come home and tell your spouse, like,
Exactly.
you don't want to go
Yeah.
into detail about it or whatever,
No, and
right?
I think that's partially like why we do it, is so other people don't have to do it. They don't have to see it,
Yeah.
right? So like, I don't know how it is with your wife. Like you probably don't tell her about the calls specifically. Like,
No, not really. No, I don't.
yeah,
I don't go into a lot of detail about it, but I
no,
do tell her, like, if I did have a bad call.
yeah,
I think it was 2 years ago. I had a kind of a crappy one where someone got run over by a truck, and I don't want to like come home and then kind of paint that image for her,
totally.
right? So
Yeah.
if I do end up on a bad call that maybe I just need some time to process, I just kind of tell her, like, yeah, we kind of had a crappy call and it
Mhm.
wasn't a very good one, and I think I just need a little bit of time to kind of sort myself out or whatever, right? Like,
Yeah.
and typically like after something like that, I like to come home, kind of just like decompress a bit, and then like the first thing that I'd usually do is like go train, right? Like
Yeah.
go to the gym, go for a run, go to jujitsu, something that's like, takes you have to focus on, especially like
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
like jujitsu, right? Like
Yeah.
you have to be like present in the moment and
Hmm.
focus on that.
We talked about that a
Yeah,
couple episodes ago. Like that, take that 1 hour, 2 hours, whatever, where you're just completely not thinking about anything other than what you're doing in that moment.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So I find that helps a lot, right?
Hmm.
And my wife is super like supportive with that too. Like she knows, like, I just tell her, like, it was a bit of a crappy shift. We kind of had a bad call. Like
Hmm.
I think I just kind of want to chill out, and then I'm gonna go for a workout or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, kind of like what you were talking about earlier too, something that I noticed early on in my career after an event like that is, people in your life outside of the fire service are going to have problems in their life as well,
Hmm.
problems at work, whatever, and they're going to talk to you about it. And it's easy for you to be like thinking in your head, like, this is so insignificant, like,
Yeah.
but that issue is important to them,
Yeah.
right? And you don't want to dismiss that, right? Like the last thing you want to do is be like, oh, you think you're having a hard time at work because so and so sent, a nasty email to you. It's
Yeah.
like, well, I dealt with this and that and this, and
Yeah.
you don't want to, like, yeah,
Like
dismiss.
compare and
Yeah, you don't want to
dismiss.
compare and dismiss them and
Hmm.
like how they're feeling and what they're going through too,
Yeah.
right? So I think it's really good to be like open and honest with your family members and stuff,
Yeah.
and you can do that without having to go into huge detail
Yeah.
too, right? Just to because you don't want to paint that picture for them either, right?
Yeah, and I feel like you have to do that early on, because if you don't, it's just going to cause friction, because they haven't seen you in 12 hours or 24 hours. So of course the very first thing they want to do is hang out.
Yeah.
Whereas like for us, like I've just potentially, showered with 3 or 4 other dudes in the fire hall. Like I just want time alone, like I've done enough of that in my life. Like I just need some alone time now. Like
Yeah.
because
Exactly.
we
Yeah.
like it's a family in the fire hall, right? Like
It
we
is.
eat together, we sleep together. Like I said,
Work out together.
yeah, you're in the
Yeah.
bathroom to get, like, there's no privacy.
Yeah.
So like when you get home and the very first thing your significant other wants to do is be with you, which is totally normal and
Yeah.
makes sense. You're like, this isn't what I need right now.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's good ways of going about saying that too, though.
Yeah.
And there's bad ways of going about it too.
Oh yeah, I've been
right?
guilty of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And like if you're like, oh, like you need to leave me alone right now,
Yeah.
like you got to understand that they don't understand where we're coming from, right? They're not in this line of work. So for them, all of a sudden you're kind of being a bit of a prick and
Yeah.
they're like, whoa, what the hell?
Which is totally justifiable.
Yeah, for sure. But I think it's good to be open and honest with them. And I like that rating system that you and your wife have. That's
Yeah.
cool, man.
It's yeah, hopefully, if you're going to use it, that's awesome. Like more
Yeah.
people you should always, I feel like, try to find a way to bridge that gap between, what your spouse does, what you do, or what your family does.
Yeah,
What you
for
do.
sure. And another thing too is it's no secret that divorce rates are higher within like the first responder community,
Mhm.
right? And I think that's probably getting better just because, you know, this are like the younger generation of first responders seem to be a bit more open to like talking about things and whatever, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're coming home and you're in a bad mood and you don't want to tell your spouse why or your family members why, like it's going to cause turmoil, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's good to be open and honest, and if you don't want to go into detail about it, you don't have to, but you can tell them like, hey, you know what? It was a bad shift. I had a bad call, or whatever it might be, right? It
Yeah.
might not even be a call. It could even be like you didn't perform well at
Yeah.
in the actual haul, right?
That's a
Like
very good point.
you
Yeah.
messed up on your truck checks or whatever, right? Like it
Yeah.
does happen, right? You want to try and be as good at that as you can, but sometimes things get missed, right?
Yeah.
And which when that does happen, it is a crappy feeling, but it's one of those gut checks, right? Where it's like, oh, okay, hey, next time I got to be more aware of this, right?
Yeah. And I find like we try to do as much as possible all the time. That's just kind of like that A-type mentality that we have. So if you're taking too many shifts or working too much and you don't have that time to actually decompress and go back to your loved one and spend that time with them or listen to their problems,
Yeah.
then you got to do a little bit of self-reflection too and be like, okay, maybe it's time to just, lay off the gas a little bit and reconsider what my priorities are here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What else did we have on that list?
Yeah, you know what? Let me just check. For those that don't know, like this is all just free balling. We have some things that we want to go over with you guys just because we think it's important. So we might write some stuff down, but overall, there's no script. There's no nothing here.
No, we just jot down some ideas of like points that we want to talk about that we think are important. But aside from that, yeah, this is all unscripted.
Yeah. One thing we did jot down was not being able to answer your phone or text right away. That's a good one.
Oh, yeah, you know what? That's a good one. So, sorry, I was just taking a sip of water.
Is it delicious?
It is nice. It's nice and cold. It's cold water. It's good.
I'm very parched right now.
Are you?
I'm going to have one after this.
Would you like a sip of my water?
That's okay.
Okay.
Yes. I'll just
I actually finished it anyway, so. So yeah, not being able to answer your phone or reply to your messages right away, right? At the fire hall, it can be pretty busy sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're going on calls. And if you're on probation, if you're brand new, you shouldn't really be looking at your phone. Like you should have your phone maybe in your locker or something like that.
And
lunch break or something, maybe go check it. But
yeah, that's a very good point because if you're just getting into this career and your spouse isn't aware that you're not allowed to have your phone, or not really not allowed, but like it's frowned upon to have your phone around you because you should be focusing on your work, you may not be getting any information from them that day in that first year, right? And that's kind of, I feel like that's where the tough things happen because, your spouse doesn't understand the job. You don't really understand the job as much. You don't know how to describe things to them. So like all those friction points would happen in the first year the most. It seems like.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with you on that. But yeah, it's good to like let them know like, hey, I can't always answer my phone right away. If there's something that could be like, say, an emergency, like say, I don't know, say for example, your wife's pregnant or something like that, and you want to be able to get in touch with her, like it would be okay to like maybe talk to your senior firefighter on the crew and just explain what's going on, like, hey, or my mom has a doctor's appointment today or whatever it might be. And, I'm kind of expecting a call from her just as an update as to how things went. Would it be okay if I kept my phone on me for that particular reason? And I can't really see anybody saying no to that.
No, that's just good communication, good teamwork. Like that actually happened to me a couple of months ago. I can't remember what it was for, but they scheduled, I think it was like Government of Canada or something. They scheduled a call back, and the only time they could do it was like 9:00 on a Tuesday on shift.
Yeah.
And I just told the officer, like, if we're doing something, if I'm on my phone, I apologize. It's not always the most professional, but I need to take this call at that hour.
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, everybody just works around it and able to accommodate, which is nice.
Yeah, for sure. And also another thing that I actually want to touch on a bit is right when you get hired, like for the first year, I'd say you're kind of riding this like high almost where you're like, this is so cool. Like I love this job. And like, you become like so obsessed with your job and hanging out with people on your crew and classmates, and you just want to talk firefighting all the time and stuff. You got to remember to like a bit like where you came from, try and separate, your home life from work a bit. Like, I don't think your significant other just wants to talk about firefighting all the time, right?
Yeah, that's a great point. Keep those friends that you've had know nothing about firefighting. When you meet up with them, you don't talk about firefighting because they don't
Yeah.
understand it.
Yeah, exactly. And also, like, a lot of people think it's a really cool job, but just because they think it's a cool job doesn't necessarily mean that they want to hear you talk about it constantly, right?
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind, right? For me, uh, like majority of my friends are like friends that I've had since like elementary school,
Mm-hmm.
right? That I still see regularly, right? Or like, people I go hunting with, or, people I train martial arts with. Like, I think it's healthy to also have your home life be separated from your work life a bit.
Yeah.
And not to say that there's anything wrong with like hanging out with people from work or anything. I think that's awesome. Like, you and I hang out,
Yeah.
and I do hang out with quite a few people from work as well, but don't forget about your other friends that you had, right?
Mm-hmm. And it just, yeah, like sometimes, you can get into that vicious circle of if you're just hanging out with firefighters, you hear the same, bad stories. And I mean, like call wise or, inter politics or things like that. So sometimes it can have a negative connotation on just your regular life, right?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So yeah, make sure you keep in contact with all your friends and people who were there for you before you got into this line of work,
Mm-hmm.
right? Got anything else to touch on there?
Honestly, 99% communication, whether that's with your spouse, with your family members, like we said, friends outside of the fire service. I feel like all of that just boils down to communication.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so kind of the key points here are, being open and honest with your significant other or family members, setting the expectations that you can't always be on your phone when you're at work, the shift work too, right? Like, obviously I would assume most people are aware that firefighting is shift work, right? But sometimes you're not going to be able to make Christmas and stuff like that. So it's good that you maybe tell your family and friends ahead of time too, right? Like scheduling wise, like,
Yeah.
I can't make this because of I'm on shift. I'm not going to be able to take that time off or
Yeah,
whatever.
that's actually a great point. When I first started, my family would get upset when I couldn't make like a birthday or a holiday or something. Like, look,
Yeah.
we can book this 6 months in advance. That's the nice thing about our job.
Yeah.
But it also has to be on a day that I'm not working.
Exactly. Yeah. I've run into that too, right? With like birthdays and stuff, and people being like a little disappointed that it's like, oh man, you can't make it. I'm like, yeah, like I'm sorry, dude, but like I gotta work.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
but I'll make it up to you, right? Like on a day that I'm not working, like I'll take you out for beers or whatever the case might be, right?
Yeah.
So, but just like setting that expectation so people are aware
Yeah.
that you're not going to be able to make every family event and every birthday and
Yeah.
holiday, right?
At the end of the day, like in my opinion, is like the actual day itself is not what's important. It's hanging out with your friends, hanging out with your family. I know a lot of brothers in our job, they, have Christmas the next day because the kids don't know anything different, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
the
Yeah,
25th doesn't make a difference. It's actually just being there with family and celebrating together.
exactly.
All that. So
Yeah, right on. Hey, everyone, we just wanted to take a moment quickly to thank our sponsors. Our first sponsor is CanCon Construction. CanCon is located in Abbotsford, BC. CanCon specializes in heavy machinery for construction sites, such as backhoes, excavators, and so on. If you're looking to gain experience, or if you already have experience as an equipment operator and you're looking for a new place to work, we highly suggest CanCon Construction. They're one of the best in the business, and they treat their employees like gold. So check them out. You can look at their website at canconconstruction.com. The next sponsor we'd like to thank is Strike Recovery and Performance. Strike is located in Burnaby, BC. They provide physio, chiropractor, and RMTs. I've been personally going to Strike for a few years now, so it's really awesome that they've decided to sponsor our podcast. I've gone to other chiros and physios before, and nothing compares to Strike. Their head chiropractor was actually a chiropractor for the UFC for quite a while, so they have a lot of experience dealing with professional athletes. And as firefighters, you have the potential of getting injured, and they're the people to go see. Hopefully, we're able to provide a bit of insight for people maybe what their family can expect, or what they can at least kind of tell their family to expect, and their
Yeah.
significant other, and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So
Talk to them. Talk to
yeah, talk to them. Like Boris said, communication is huge, right?
them. Mhm.
So yeah, I think we could probably wrap it up there, eh?
Yeah, no, that was
Yeah.
great. If you guys have any questions for us, as always, email us, DM us,
Yeah.
whatever. Happy to answer them.
Yeah. So if you want to email us, it's info@firefightersglobal.com. If you want to DM us on Instagram or follow us on Instagram, it's just @firefightersglobal. We will be doing more Q&A podcast episodes as well, so please feel free to send us any questions that you might have or that you want us to answer over those platforms.
Yeah.
So until next time, guys,
Awesome.
have a
Take
good
care.
one.